Good evening, live from New Delhi. You're watching DD India Live, India's voice to the world. I'm Shubhendu Ghosh, coming up in the next 30 minutes. Russian President Vladimir Putin to arrive in New Delhi on Thursday for a two-day state visit to India. Trade, defense ties high on agenda. Dissent grows in Washington as US lawmakers clash over President Donald Trump's escalating military posturing in the Caribbean against Venezuela. Malakram's Fairy 50 fueled South Africa's chase of 359 against India in Raipur ODI. Preparations are on for Russian President Vladimir Putin's two-day state visit to India beginning Thursday. The Kremlin spokesperson said that trade would feature high on the agenda of the 23rd India-Russia Annual Summit. DD India's Akhilesh Suman gets us more from New Delhi.
Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov on Tuesday said that during his upcoming visit to India, Russian President Vladimir Putin will discuss both bilateral and international issues with Prime Minister Narendra Modi.
India for us is a great partner, and we do hope that the visit of President Putin will be successful. As successful was the visit of Prime Minister Modi 1 year ago to Moscow. President and Prime Minister had a very, very good possibility to spend lots of hours together discussing the most sensitive issues of the global and regional agenda. We hope that this will be the case for New Delhi meeting the day after tomorrow.
Addressing a virtual press conference organized by Sputnik News, Peskov said there's vast potential for cooperation between India and Russia, ranging from small nuclear reactors and military equipment to various goods and services. Peskov reiterated that sanctions imposed on Russia by the US and the EU are illegal, as they have not been authorized by the United Nations. Peskov also said that Putin will also share a first-hand assessment of the ongoing Russia-Ukraine conflict and the efforts to resolve it.
We do appreciate the position and the stand of India vis-à-vis Ukrainian settlement and Ukrainian affair. We do appreciate the readiness of New Delhi to contribute to a search of peaceful solution in this very complicated conflict. And we do respect the position of Prime Minister Modi, and we do respect the possibility of exchanging information from the first hands between himself and our president, and we hope that this practice will continue.
Business leaders from both the countries will meet in Delhi to explore deeper business-to-business partnerships which could help narrow the trade imbalance which currently favors Russia. Akhilesh Suman's report, DD India.
And ahead of leaders meet in New Delhi, RT correspondent Rory Suchet reports from Delhi on India-Russia ties.
Russian President Vladimir Putin coming here to the beautiful capital city of India to meet his dear friend, Prime Minister Narendra Modi. It spans across the entire spectrum, whether it's the economy, whether it's the military, whether it's agriculture, whether it's entirely wrapped up into the whole picture of bilateral trade, because the numbers are enormous. Right now, we are looking at an annual bilateral trade right now of hitting roughly $70 billion. That is an enormous number, and yet Moscow and New Delhi are expecting that bilateral trade number to reach $100 billion in the near future. We're discussing the joint production of the BrahMos missile system, joint collaborative production between Russia and India to make it domestically produced here in this country. The BrahMos missile. They're also talking about more bilateral trade with the T-90 Russian tanks, AK assault rifles as well. The numbers, the investments keep going up and up and up. Now, Russia and India standing very much on the front part of the main stage today of this new multipolar world order. Russia and India are a driving force in this new polycentric world order. And currently, Russia and India are investigating a new type of payment system that will help them to essentially avoid Western sanctions. They're discussing this Russian payment system that should come into effect soon so that Russia and India can avoid potential Western sanctions. So with Vladimir Putin and Narendra Modi here in the beautiful, beautiful capital city of India, our expectations and our hopes are very, very high for some major agreements to be signed. And with the driving force of Russia and India working together, with the likes of the BRICS family as well, which is frankly right now the biggest strategic partnership in the world. So here we are, I'm Rory Souchet for RT International to cover the 23rd annual Russia-India Summit. Expectations are very high and we're looking forward to telling you more.
In other news, US Secretary of State Marco Rubio has said United States has made some progress in developing security guarantees for Ukraine, while emphasizing that unlimited American funding for the conflict is not realistic and is unsustainable.
What they're literally fighting over now is about 30 to 50 kilometer space in the 20% of the Donetsk region that remains. And so what we have tried to do, and I think have made some progress, is figure out what can the Ukrainians live with that gives them security guarantees for the future, they're never going to be invaded again, allows them not just to rebuild their economy, but to prosper as a country, be a country that has an economy that grows, theoretically, doing the right things. In 10 years, Ukraine's GDP could be larger than Russia's.
The Kremlin said on Wednesday that President Vladimir Putin accepted some US proposals aimed at ending the conflict in Ukraine, rejected others, but that Russia was ready to meet US negotiators as many times as it took to reach an agreement. Meanwhile, EU Chief Ursula von der Leyen on Wednesday put forward a plan to provide Ukraine with $105 billion in funding over the next 2 years to enable them to lead peace negotiations from a position of strength. The loan would be funded either from EU borrowing or by using Russian assets frozen in the bloc, the option pushed by the Commission but strongly resisted by the key player, Belgium. The European Council announced on Wednesday that it has reached an agreement with the European Parliament to phase out Russian gas imports by 2027. Under the deal, Europe will impose a legally binding stepwise prohibition on liquefied natural gas or LNG and pipeline gas imports from Russia. The ban on LNG will take effect at the end of 2026, while pipeline gas will be fully prohibited by autumn of 2027. However, Hungary will challenge the decision. Slovakia is also weighing its legal options against the EU order. EU Commission President Ursula von der Leyen said in a statement that this will mark a decisive step towards ending Europe's dependency on Russian energy.
Today is indeed a historic day for our Union. Last night, we reached a provisional agreement on the Commission's proposal to fully phase out Russian fossil fuels. We're turning that page, and we're turning it for good. This is the dawn of a new era, the era of Europe's full energy independence from Russia.
Foreign ministers from the NATO alliance gathered in Brussels to discuss Washington's push to end the fighting, but US top diplomat Marco Rubio skipped this meeting. The gathering comes after US envoys appeared to fail to make a major breakthrough on the efforts to stop the Ukraine conflict in 5 hours of talks with Putin in Moscow. As part of those moves, Germany, Poland, Norway, Netherlands and Canada said they would together commit some $1 billion more to a scheme to buy American weapons for Ukraine. Let's now take a look at some other stories making news today. Italian Alps town Brixen marked 10th anniversary of its winter light shows with a new production called Oops, created with the UNICEF and Italian composer Giorgio Moroder. The show features an original score written just for the event by Moroder, a South Tyrol native known as a pioneer of Euro, disco and electronic dance music. At the International Robot Exhibition held at Tokyo's Big Sight Hall, Japan's Kawasaki Corporation unveiled Kaleido 9, a humanoid robot with shiny fingers and steel-framed body. The robot demonstrated its rescue capabilities, designed to be deployed in disaster areas where human access is difficult. In Józefów, a small town on the outskirts of Warsaw, lumps of glass are transformed into dazzling holiday decorations as Silverado, a family-owned factory, continues the tradition of mouth-blown Christmas ornaments. The handcrafted pieces captivate buyers worldwide and spread the festive cheer, with Poland emerging as a key player in the global market for decorations rooted in traditional styles and methods. Still to come on this edition of TD India Live. German president in the UK on a state visit after 27 years. A breathtaking discovery from the edge of the universe, an ancient galaxy called Alaknanda.
This week on Defense Dynamic, we break down the evolution from S-400 to S-500 and what this leap in air defense technology means for India. High-altitude pseudo-satellites, a first-of-its-kind manufacturing facility, perhaps is now operational. Why is India rethinking its aerospace propulsion roadmap? We explain the shift. This Wednesday at 8 p.m. IST, only on DD India.
You're watching DD India Live. I'm Shubhendu Ghosh. Dissent is growing in Washington as US lawmakers clash over President Donald Trump's escalating military activity in the Caribbean and the pressure on Venezuela. Senators and representatives from both parties are now threatening to invoke Congress's war powers if the administration moves forward with a strike inside the country. Here's more by DD India's Harshita Oberoi.
For months, US lawmakers have voiced concerns over what they call an unchecked campaign against Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro. On Tuesday, Senators Tim Kaine, Chuck Schumer, Adam Schiff, and Rand Paul warned that unauthorized military action would be a dangerous and unacceptable step. A similar resolution in the House aims to block hostilities without congressional consent. Concerns have intensified following at least 20 US strikes on suspected drug smuggling boats since September, which have killed more than 80 people, and reports that a second strike targeting survivors may violate international law. Meanwhile, US Navy vessels and military jets were seen on Tuesday near Ponce, Puerto Rico. The show of force comes as the US maintains pressure on Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro, whose chances of a safe US-mediated exit appear increasingly slim. After a recent call in which Trump dismissed most of Maduro's demands, the president declared Venezuela's airspace closed in its entirety, with Puerto Rico serving as a forward base for operations tied to the crisis. US Secretary of War Pete Hegseth noted that strikes have been temporarily paused because drug smuggling vessels have become harder to locate, but emphasized that operations against traffickers will resume.
And I will just end by saying, as President Trump always has our back, we always have the back of our commanders who are making decisions in difficult situations, and we do in this case and all these strikes. They're making judgment calls and ensuring that they defend the American people. They've done the right things. We'll keep doing that.
US President Donald Trump warned that any country trafficking illegal drugs into the US, citing cocaine from Colombia, is subject to attack, underlining his hard-line approach to narcotics.
Anybody that's doing that and selling it into our country is subject to attack.
Amid this escalating tension, Pope Leo, the first US-born pope, cautioned against military intervention, advocating dialogue and economic pressure instead. Harshita Oberoi for DD India.
Meanwhile, in a bold escalation of its anti-immigration agenda, the Trump administration on Tuesday suspended all green card and citizenship applications from nationals of 19 high-risk countries under existing travel bans, including Afghanistan, Yemen, Haiti, Venezuela, Sudan, Somalia, Iran, Libya, Burma, Chad, Republic of Congo, Equatorial Guinea, and Eritrea. The US Citizenship and Immigration Services memo, citing national security, blames lax Biden-era waiting for last week's fatal DC shooting of 2 National Guard soldiers by an Afghan evacuee who pled not guilty to murder on Tuesday. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's office announced on Wednesday that forensic tests have confirmed the remains handed over by Hamas on Tuesday do not belong to either of the last 2 deceased hostages still held in Gaza. Under the October ceasefire agreement, Hamas transferred what the Red Cross described as the body of one of the remaining victims. Israel's National Center for Forensic Medicine examined the materials termed findings by the Israel Defense Forces and determined they are unrelated to any hostage. Israel will send a representative to meet officials in Lebanon in a bid to establish a basis for a relationship and economic cooperation. Israel and Lebanon entered a US-brokered ceasefire agreement last year. Israel has not halted strikes against Lebanon's military Hezbollah group ever since. In other news, Britain's King Charles III and Queen Camilla welcomed Germany's President Frank-Walter Steinmeier at the Windsor. Steinmeier is the first German president to get a state visit in the UK in 27 years. The visit features a state banquet at Windsor Castle and a speech to the Parliament, underscoring renewed London-Berlin ties strengthened by deepening security alliance after years of strain in the post-Brexit era. Hundreds of supporters of ousted South Korean President Yoon Suk-yeol rallied in Seoul on the anniversary of his December 3, 2024 declaration of martial law, which suspended civilian rule for the first time in over 40 years and triggered nationwide protest and a parliamentary standoff. Meanwhile, current leader Lee Jae-myung marked the anniversary by praising South Korea's unique and special democracy, highlighting its tradition of peaceful civic action and resilience.
대한민국 민주주의에 독특함이 있다. 특징이 있다고 생각합니다. 그게 뭐냐면
I believe that there is something unique and special about South Korean democracy. That's the peaceful and beautiful directness fueled by collective intelligence. I believe it has the characteristic of not delegating responsibility but taking action directly, acting peacefully and beautifully without violence and never giving up.
그리고 포기하지 않는다.
Back home, the centre has scrapped its plan to mandate pre-installation of Sanchar Sathi citizen cybersecurity app on all new smartphones, citing overwhelming public acceptance. Launched to empower users to report fraud and block malicious numbers, the app saw a record 6 lakh registrations in a single day, a 10-fold jump, pushing total downloads past 1.4 crore. Officials clarified the app is fully voluntary, removable anytime, and contains no other feature. Union Environment Minister Bhupendra Yadav reviewed Delhi NCR's pollution control efforts, directing states to submit action reports and accelerate emission monitoring systems.
In a high-level review meeting on Delhi NCR's air pollution, Union Environment Minister Bhupendra Yadav directed all state and duty authorities to submit concrete action-taken reports on their pollution management efforts. This was the 6th such meeting to assess ongoing measures for preventing and controlling air pollution across the region. The minister also outlined a year-long action plan for 2026 aimed at ensuring sustained monitoring and intervention throughout the year and not just during peak pollution months.
इस विषय को लेने के लिए हम लोगों ने ये तय किया है कि एक मीटिंग हम चंडीगढ़ में आयोजित करेंगे, जहां पर हरियाणा और पंजाब की सरकारों को बुला करके हम पराली के विषय के प्रबंधन की भी 1 वर्षीय योजना काम करेंगे। हमारा ये मानना है कि पिछले ली गई 6 मीटिंगों के परिणाम आपको CAQM चेयरमैन और बाकी लोगों ने बताया है, और अब आने वाले 1 वर्ष की योजना पर हम नीचे जाकर के काम करेंगे।
Highlighting improvements on the environmental front, Bhupendra Yadav said accelerated greening efforts across NCR, from roadside plantations to urban forest development, remain a priority to improve local air quality. He also pointed to India's strong performance at the recently held UN COP30 Climate Summit, calling it a milestone for climate equity and justice.
नेगोशिएशन में जो भारत के विषय हैं और जो दुनिया में विकासशील देशों के विषय हैं उनको बहुत अच्छे तरीके से एड्रेस किया गया है। पहली बार क्लाइमेट फाइनेंस को लेकर के एलएमडीसी देशों की मांग पर एक 2 साल का वर्क प्रोग्राम शुरू करने की जिम्मेदारी तय हुई। यूनिलैटरल ट्रेड मेजर्स का और खासकर सीबेम जैसे विषय को लेकर के हमारी चिंता रहती थी। अब इस विषय को पहली बार UNFCCC के ऑफिशियल एजेंडे में शामिल किया गया।
Reiterating the government's commitment to cleaner air and a sustainable future, the minister urged coordinated action from authorities, institutions and citizens to ensure long-term, measurable improvement. Tapas Bhattacharya's report for DD India.
Indian President Draupadi Murmu addressed the Indian Navy Day celebrations at Thiruvananthapuram, Kerala on Wednesday. The Supreme Commander of the Indian Armed Forces said people of the country are grateful to the men and women of the Indian Navy for their service to the nation. She said that Indian Navy remains the principal force responsible for ensuring the security of India's maritime domain.
I extend my greetings for the Navy Day, which is a celebration of selfless service and supreme sacrifice made by naval personnel in defense of our motherland. People of India are grateful to the men and women of Indian Navy for their service to the nation. We are proud of each one of you. On behalf of fellow citizens, I would like to thank all of you for your professionalism, passion and patriotism. I am happy to note that the Indian Navy is choosing various cities for operational demonstration on the Navy Day. It is a welcome step to provide opportunities to the citizens of various parts of the country to witness our Navy's excellence.
Some other news. Indian astronomers have discovered one of the earliest and the most beautiful formed spiral galaxies using James Webb Space Telescope. It's named Alaknanda. This Milky Way-like galaxy existed when the universe was just about 1.5 billion years old, challenging long-held theories about how quickly galaxies evolve. DD India's Tapas Bhattacharya gets us more.
Astronomers in India have unlocked a breathtaking secret from the early universe, a massive, perfectly formed spiral galaxy discovered using NASA's James Webb Space Telescope. They have named it Alaknanda, after the Himalayan river, and it's one of the most distant spiral galaxies ever seen. What makes this discovery extraordinary is its age. Alaknanda existed when the universe was just 1.5 billion years old, barely 10% of its current age, and yet it looks strikingly similar to our own Milky Way. Spotted by researchers Rashi Jain and Yogesh Vadadekar from NCRA TIFR in Pune and published in Astronomy and Astrophysics, Alaknanda challenges long-held theories about how galaxies evolve.
Alaknanda is one of the largest, is one of the most distant, large, high stellar mass galaxies, spiral galaxies ever discovered, and we were able to do this using data from the James Webb Space Telescope. Discoveries like Alaknanda challenge existing models of galaxy formation, and we need to now think of the future. What are the implications to models of galaxy formation? And before we do that, we need to gather some additional data. We would like to study how the stars and gas in Alaknanda are moving. Are they moving in an orderly manner, or is the movement of the stars and gas very chaotic?
The galaxies span nearly 30,000 light years, with two beautifully defined spiral arms curving around a bright central bulge. NASA's James Webb Space Telescope JWST infrared vision reveals dazzling star-forming regions along these arms, a beads on a string pattern usually seen in mature nearby galaxies.
Earlier, astronomers used to think that the early universe has to be clumpy, everything should be violent, things should be merging as stable structures like disk and properly rotating, in which spiral arms can develop, cannot really form. But we have found one of them, and that is why this discovery is very important, because we now really have to revisit the models of galaxy formation.
Until now, scientists believed early galaxies were chaotic, turbulent, and too unstable to form such ordered structures so soon. But Alaknanda tells a different story, one where the early universe was far more mature than we imagined, a milestone discovery and a proud moment for Indian astronomy. Tapas Bhattacharya's report for DD India.
From space to sports, after an all-round dominant batting performance by India, setting a massive target of 359, the Proteas are now in action with the bat after losing Denock early for just 8 runs, followed by Bavuma's 46 runs exploit. Proteas seem to be in a commanding position, with Malakram steady at the crease with 67 runs for South Africa in the second ODI match in Raipur. Earlier, Ruturaj Gaikwad and Virat Kohli smashed tons after losing Rohit Sharma and Yashasvi Jaiswal early. Kohli and Gaikwad stitched together a partnership of 195 runs. Gaikwad departed for a brilliant 105, registering his maiden ODI century. On the other end, Kohli brought up his 53rd ODI century, his second in a row after the century in Ranchi. India has announced their squad for the upcoming 5-match T20 international series against South Africa starting from December 9th. Shubman Gill has been included in the squad, but his availability is subject to fitness clearance from the BCCI's Centre of Excellence. Gill has been recovering from a neck spasm, which he suffered during the first test against the Proteas at the Eden Gardens last month. India have retained the T20 squad that was successful in the T20 series in Australia, with star all-rounder Hardik Pandya returning to the fold. Top order will feature Shubman Gill, Abhishek Sharma along with skipper Surya Kumar Yadav. A returning Hardik Pandya will bolster the middle order, which includes Shivam Dubey, Akshar Patel, wicketkeeper batters Jitesh Sharma and Sanju Samson. Meanwhile, the pace battery featuring the likes of Arshdeep Singh and Harshit Rana will be led by Jasprit Bumrah. And that's all for this edition of DD India Live. Let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on DD India mobile app. This app is available on both Android and iOS platforms. Scan this QR code on your screens and download now. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Shubhendu Ghosh from all of us here in Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India Live.